Good morning, students. In this session, we'll discuss about systems of irrigation. As I said, that irrigation may be broadly classified into two types. One is surface irrigation and the second one is subsurface irrigation. In the surface irrigation methods, the irrigation water is applied by spreading it in sheet or small streams on the land to be irrigated. The various methods of surface irrigation are classified as flooding methods, uncontrolled or wild flooding, controlled flooding, free flooding from filled channels, contour laterals method, border strips method, checks or levees method, basin method, and zigzag method. These all are coming under flooding methods. Second one is furrow method and the third is contour forming. So we'll discuss in detail the methods which are coming under flooding methods are uncontrolled flooding or wild flooding. In this method, water is applied by spreading over the land to be irrigated without any prior preparation of the land. The water is allowed to flow the natural slope of the land without enforcing any control in the form of levees, etc. to guide the flow of water or other restricts its movement on the land. This method is generally used in the inundation irrigation system in which water is forced to spread over vast tracts during the season of high stream flow. It is wasteful use of water and is practiced largely where irrigation water is abundant and inexpensive. Controlled flooding. Controlled flooding. In this method, water is applied by spreading over the land to be irrigated with proper control being enforced on the flow of water as well as on the quantity of water applied. For all methods of irrigation by controlled flooding, prior preparation of the land is essential. The water is supplied in the flooding from filled channels. You can see on the screen. This is a type of flooding from filled channels. In this method, the land to be irrigated is divided into small strips. Why? A series of filled channels or laterals which are supplied water from the supply channels. The supply channels are located at the higher edges of the field and are aligned along the general slope of the land. The laterals may be aligned either along the contour lines or at right angles to the contour lines or at right angles to the sides of the land. When the laterals are aligned at right angles to the contour lines, then the land on both the sides of the channels can be irrigated. But in the other two cases, irrigation would be possible only on one side of the channel. In this direction of the general slope of the land. From the laterals, water is applied to the land. Laterals applied to the land through the feeding points provided at some interval along their lengths. The excess water from the laterals is carried through waste channels and it may be used to irrigate the lower areas. So these are the types of the flooding feed channels. What are the advantages? This method can be used on relatively steep slopes as well as on flat lands. No major land preparations are required, but careful location and proper spacing of the laterals is essential. Some points are to be kept in mind with respect to this method is lands having steep slopes require closer spacing of laterals than those having flat slopes. Porous soils require closer spacing of laterals than tight soils. In general, the spacing of laterals may vary from 15 to 60 meter. However, in some cases, the spacing of laterals may even be less than 15 meter or more than 60 meter. The lands best suited for irrigation by flooding from field channels are those having medium type soil and slopes in the range of 1 in 100 to 1 in 200. Next is contour lateral methods. This is the contour lateral method. The first one is the contour lateral method. This method is applicable for steeper terrain. The field is cut by a relatively dense network of small contour laterals, the spacing of which depends upon the prominent grade of the field between two adjacent ditches or laterals. The uniformity of slope and the soil type. From the laterals, water is applied to the land through the feeding points provided at some interval along their lengths. The excess water from the laterals is carried through waste channels and it may be used to irrigate the lower areas. Next is border strip method. You can see the on the screen, you can see the picture on the screen. The third one, border strip method. Again, there are two types in the border strip methods. In this method, the land to be irrigated is divided into series of long narrow strips, that is 10 to 20 meter wide. 60 meter to 300-meter long, separated from each other by low levees or borders. The strips have no cross slope, that is, slope along the width of the strip, but have a uniform gentle slope in the longitudinal direction, that is 0. That is 0.50% to 1.5%, so that the irrigation water applied to each strip is uniformly spread over its entire width without getting accumulated on either side as it flows down the slope. The width of the strip depends on the size of the irrigation stream available and degree of land leveling practicable. The length of the strip depends on the infiltration rate of the soil, the slope of the land, the size of the irrigation stream available. Coarse textured soils with high infiltration rates require large streams to spread water over the entire strip rapidly and avoid excessive losses due to deep percolation at the upper reaches. On the other hand, fine textured soils with low infiltration rates require smaller streams to avoid excessive losses due to runoff at the lower reaches. For moderate slopes and small to moderate size irrigation streams, the following length and slopes of the strips may be adapted for different types of slopes. The size of irrigation stream, type of soil, length of the strip, longitudinal slopes of the strips. In sandy and sandy loam soils, medium loam soils, clay loam and clay soils. Length varies 60 meter to 120 meter for sandy and loamy soils, 100 meter to 120 meter in medium loam soil, 150 meter to 300 meter for clay and loamy soils. The water may be supplied to the strips in either of the following the ways, like earth or concrete channels, underground concrete pipes through risers. So risers you can see on the screen left side, and the supply pipelines are there. Next is checks or levees method. You can see on the system, you can see the system on the screen. Checks or levees method of irrigation is the most common method used in India as in many other countries of the world. This method is also known as the method of irrigation by plots. In this method, the land to be irrigated is divided into small plots or checks basins surrounded by checks or levees or lobunds. This system you can see on the screen. Each plot has a nearly level surface. The irrigation water is applied by flooding the plots to the desired depth without stopping the levees and the water is retained there to allow it to infiltrate into the soil. The levees may be temporary or semi-permanent. The size of the levees depends on the depth of the water to be impounded as well as on the stability of the soil when wet. Water is conveyed to the land to be irrigated by a system of supply channels and lateral field channels. The size of the plots as well as the size of the irrigation stream depends on the porosity of the soil. Thus, as the infiltration rate of the soil increases, the size of the plots must be reduced or the size of irrigation stream must be increased in order to cover the entire area within a short period of time. Next is basin method. The basin method of irrigation is special form of check basin method which is used for the irrigation of orchards. In this method, generally for each tree, a separate basin is made which is usually circular in shape and hence it is known as ring basin. However, in some cases, basins of the larger size are made to include 2 or 5 or more trees in one basin. Water is supplied to the basins from a supply channel through small field channels connecting the basins with the supply channel. In most of the cases, each basin is provided with a separate field channel so that water is directly supplied to each basin from the supply channel. However, in some cases, all the basins are interconnected so that from the supply channel, water is conveyed to one of the basins and by flowing from one basin into another, the water supplied to all the basins. Next is zigzag method. The water will be flowed in the zigzag shape. That's why it is called a zigzag method. It is special method of flooding where water takes a circuitous route before reaching the dead end of each plot. The whole area is divided into a number of square or rectangular plots. Each plot is then subdivided with the help of low bunds or levees. This method is suitable for relatively level plots. It is, however, highly unsuitable for farming operations with modern farm machinery. So these are some methods, and in the next video we shall discuss about furrow methods and contour farming. Thank you guys.